Okay, so for today, we are going to go through a few topics. We'll talk about science and sleep. Don't worry, if you're not a science person, that's okay. It's going to be brief. We'll then move on to insomnia and student life. We know that this is an issue for many people. So of course, we will discuss that. We'll also talk about sleep hygiene and sleep routine. And finally, how to maintain a sleep schedule. Okay, so I see that someone is reminding me about the live transcription. So I do apologize. I will activate that now for you. Okay, there you are. And then we'll go on to resources. All right, so as you know, I'm always clicking too early, but my name is Caprice. I am the Health Promotion and Education Coordinator at Health Services. So I think that this is a great job. I discuss and plan and share all things health related. So not only do I talk about sleep like I am today, I discuss general health, mental health, sexual health, nutrition, fitness, everything. So you'll likely see information about the activities that I'm running through the SSS website or the events page. Similar to how you signed up today, there's an orientation page. The same thing is true for the Student Support Services events. And if you ever are on campus and you need something from health services, I'm located in the same place where health services is. So it's room room 141 in building C at the first level. So it's the main entrance of C building. Once you get through security, we're directly on the right side, and you can make an appointment to see a doctor or nurse. While you're in there, you might see a small section that's specific to health promotion. So I have a team there that I run these events with. All right, so we're moving on. Okay, so why do we sleep? Well, it keeps us alive. That's the gist. Sleep is as essential as food and water. So lots of people like to deprioritize sleep. It tends to be the first thing to go when we're studying, when work is busy, we say, okay, I'll just stay up a little bit later, get a bit more work done. But it's very, very important to prioritize sleep. Not only the quantity of sleep, let's say it's 10 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, but the quality of the sleep as well. So why is it important? Well, sleep is important for optimal brain functioning. You just won't be firing on all cylinders if you don't get enough sleep. It allows us to store memories and make new ones as well, which is great for school during your academics. When you need to remember the key topics for a presentation, maybe an exam is coming up, and maybe that's something that you'll have to worry about later on this term. But it's very, very important to make sure that you are prioritizing sleep for your basic memory skills. It maintains a healthy immune system, especially now with COVID, and we're also worried about the flu at this time as well. It's really, really important to sleep well because it reduces your risk of lowering your immunity, especially when you're stressed and you're not getting enough sleep. The levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, increases in your body, and it impacts the way that T cells, I'm not sure if any of you have heard of T cells before, but the way that T cells function. So your ability to fight off infection is actually going to decrease. And finally, of course, cardiovascular health. Cardiovascular health is heart disease, high blood pressure, cardiovascular health in general. So diabetes will also be impacted if you're not sleeping well. So that's just an overview of why sleep is so important for us. So has anyone heard of the man who didn't sleep for 11 days? Feel free to use the reaction button. I'll give you a chance to type away in the chat, or you can use reactions. Okay, I see a few people are reacting. Okay, yes, well, there's this one person who tried to experiment during their summer break. It was a 15-year-old person who said, hey, I wonder what it's like to not sleep let's try it out and see what happens. So he and few of his buddies paired up and tried to see what it was like to not sleep. He lasted 11 days. Unfortunately, he experienced some pretty significant symptoms of hallucination, severe lack of focus. He experienced micro sleeps. It's very, very difficult to recover from this. And at this point, he actually now has insomnia. He suffers from insomnia and doesn't sleep enough. So it's a very interesting story that I found on NPR. If any of you are interested in this, I will actually copy it and I'll put it into the chat for you because I found it pretty interesting. Maybe you would also find it interesting. Just give me one moment as I place this in the chat. Okay, there we go. So we'll now move on. So what are the 4 stages of sleep? This is a bit of sleep science that you can be aware of. And I like to demonstrate this through the sleep cycle that we have here. So there are 4 sleep cycles, depending on what research article or paper that you're looking at. It can be broken down into 5 cycles, but I like to just look at it as 4 cycles. Okay, so you'll notice here where it's yellow is what indicates wakefulness. So when we're awake, there's low voltage, high frequency, which means there's a lot of things firing in our head. We're very, very active. Our mind is going, which is to be expected when you're awake. But the lightest stage of sleep is stage 1. Okay, and that's where you're transitioning between wakefulness and consciousness and sleep, wakefulness and sleep. So if you ever catch yourself in a dream space where you're not quite sure if you're asleep, you can still maybe hear sounds around you, but you're very calm and you're beginning to settle into your bed, if that's where you're sleeping, or on the couch. That is a drifting off phase, and that's the lightest phase of sleep. The second stage is stage 2, and the brain waves in your mind, if you had electrodes stuck to your head, it would show a slowing down of the frequency of activity in your brain. Okay. Of course, you're going into a deeper stage of sleep. Your body temperature reduces. Your eye movements tend to stop entirely. And there might be bursts of activity in your mind, but you're still entering a deeper stage of sleep. Okay, now we have stage 3. So stage 3 is non-REM sleep, and it's a second to last deep stage of sleep. It's difficult to explain it when the image is something similar to this, but we're going to say that stage 3 is from here, the bottom of stage 2, all the way to the bottom here. So this is the slowest activity of your brain. You're not technically in the deepest stage of sleep, but again, your eyes are not moving, your body temperature has reduced to its lowest point. And this is when your heart rate also reduces a little bit more. Yes, this recording, the webinar is recording. You'll be able to access this. I did get a question in the chat. But anyway, stage 3 sleep is similar to stage 2, but just a little bit deeper sleep. If you ever tried to nudge someone when they're in this stage of sleep, they probably won't wake up. But we spend almost quite a lot of time in stage 3. This is a place where we recover a lot during the night. This is where memory consolidation takes place. This is when your brain is essentially cleaned. All of the extra activities and all the extra things that we learned that isn't necessary gets wiped out at this time. This is when if you get enough stage 3 sleep and you wake up, you'll feel refreshed. It's times when you don't get enough sleep, you don't get into stage 3 sleep, and you might feel groggy in the morning. You feel like you're not rested. And lastly, it's stage 4 sleep. So it looks like it's the slowest wave here, but REM stage is probably the stage of sleep that we're most familiar with. But rapid eye movement is the 4th stage of sleep. And the reason why it's at the top is that the activity that takes place in your brain is remarkably similar to when you're awake, which is very surprising. But that's the time when you'd be dreaming. You might be having very active dream state. So your body actually paralyzes itself. You won't be able to move and act out your karate fight if that's what's happening in your dream. If you sleep with a partner, they won't be kicked or punched. So they keep your body in one space so that you yourself are safe and others around you are also safe. But you'll notice that this happens pretty regularly. It's the final stage of sleep before you return back to mid-level of stage 1. Okay, and it's at the end of your sleep cycle where you will then go back down and up again, back down. But once you have recovered and your brain has been cleaned out of any unnecessary information, you'll spend a bit more time in stage 1 and stage 2 sleep, which also indicates that you'll likely be able to wake up a little bit better at the end of the night. Because remember that REM sleep and stage 1 to stage 2 sleep is when you are most awake. Your ability to exit sleep, the sleeping phase is a little bit better for you. Okay, so I think I've spoken enough about sleep cycle. Let's move on. Okay, so the cycle repeats. So this cycle that I just went through will repeat about 5 to 6 times. And that translates to about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So something I didn't mention is that each cycle from stage 1 to stage 4 lasts about an hour and a half, okay? So your body keeps track of the amount of sleep that you get and the quality of sleep that you get. And how is that measured? Well, it's measured through 2 things. The circadian rhythm, which is our biological clock. I'm sure you all have heard of the circadian rhythm before. And that's not only measured by sleep and other hormones in our brain, it also controls our diet, how we feel, our hunger, your ability to manage your hunger. It also indicates what time it is. Sometimes some people refer this to if you have a meeting the next day and you realize that you keep waking up to check the time to make sure that you are going to make it to the meeting in the morning. Your body keeps track of time passing, and that's your circadian rhythm. We also have a sleep-wake homeostasis. So this might be a little less familiar, but this controls the drive for sleep. And the drive is just another word for the intensity of your desire to sleep. So your sleep drive would be low in the morning, since you've just woken up for sleep. You had a restful night. Let's say you went through 6 cycles of sleep, you got 9 hours of sleep and you're feeling good. And as the day progresses, your sleep-wake homeostasis would indicate that you're going to get more tired throughout the day. So at the end of the night, let's say, the end of the day, around 9 p.m., let's say, is the point where you feel the most desire to sleep. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that, is the point where you would most likely be able to sleep. And as long as these two are in balance, you should be able to go to bed at the right time and wake up at the right time. That is best for you. Of course, everybody's circadian rhythm and sleep-wake homeostasis is different. Okay. So now we're going to talk about insomnia. So insomnia is unfortunately something that is fairly common, but it is a sleep disorder that makes it hard to do one of 2 things. It's either makes it hard to fall asleep, or it makes it hard to stay asleep. And this might be an acute or a chronic issue, okay? So I'll just pause for a moment. Maybe you can have a sip of your tea. I'm going to take a drink. But how many people have it here? How many people here have experienced insomnia? I'll give you a chance to raise your hand or comment. It seems like a couple of people have. Okay. Yeah, insomnia is a really challenging it's a really challenging thing to experience. Unfortunately, it can be impacted by stress, so many different things. It's just something I'll discuss here. But as I mentioned, there's two different types. So maybe if you are someone who thinks that they do have insomnia, but they're not entirely sure, maybe take a screenshot of this. You can ask your doctor or a nurse, a healthcare professional, that I identify with either one of these. And would you be able to help me try to recover from this? But first is sleep onset or onset insomnia. This is your difficulty falling asleep. But once you do fall asleep, you'll stay asleep, okay? And the second is maintenance insomnia. So this is a person's ability to stay asleep. Okay, so their sleep pressure is very high. They're ready to fall asleep, and they do, but let's say at 2 a.m. they wake up and they can't go back to sleep. Okay, so that is maintenance insomnia. Okay, so why do people get this? Well, like I said, it's pretty common. 30% of Canadians will struggle with insomnia at some point. And this is a little bit of an outdated statistic. This is from 2017. So things may have changed over time, especially during COVID when we can't be outside as much. And like I mentioned earlier, your circadian rhythm is also impacted by time. And time is indicated by the level of light in the day. And sometimes if things get a little bit out of whack, it impacts our sleep. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, it can either be acute or chronic. Acute just means that it's temporary. You had a time where you felt very stressed, you experienced insomnia, but after that challenging point, you're able to recover and you can sleep well. Chronic is when it is chronic insomnia is described as your lack of ability to sleep continuously and maintain a good quality of sleep over a 1 month period. If that's happened for you, then you can seek help for sure. And even if it hasn't reached a chronic issue, you can certainly seek help wherever you can so that you can live well and your quality of life is good. But it's also important to be aware of your surroundings. Maybe there's other things in your life that need to be managed in order to get enough sleep, such as stress, trauma, grief, travel, change of routine, even pets. I have a cat, and sometimes Simba, my cat, can wake me up first thing in the morning, a little bit too early, and I'll have trouble getting back to sleep, and that's not great, right? If that becomes a habit, then it might lead into something called maintenance insomnia, which is not great. I don't want that. Okay, so let's debunk some myths. The first is, I can just catch up on sleep during the weekend. No, unfortunately not. And I think this one is has been discussed a few times. It's a little bit more common in online or with professors. I know some people mention that, especially when exam time is coming up, but no, you cannot catch up on sleep. If you miss it, it's gone. Because your body keeps time of the amount of sleep that you have and the quality by your circadian rhythm and your sleep drive, that's just not possible. The second myth is substances will help me sleep. That's not necessarily the case. Now, I want to say that there's still plenty of research that needs to be done on sleep and sleep hygiene in general, okay? And how substances interacts with that is also a point of that requires more research. But What we know so far is that alcohol, cannabis, even over-the-counter medications such as melatonin, which is actually a hormone, may help you fall asleep, but will impact greatly the quality of sleep and the architecture of your sleep. And what I mean by architecture is the sleep cycle. Okay, so you might be able to fall into sleep. So you'll be able to move from stage 1 to stage 2 sleep pretty well. But let's say your ability to move into stage 2 to stage 3 sleep, one of the deeper stages of sleep where all of the cleaning of your brain happens, that might not happen. You might actually stay in stage 2 sleep, or you'll only spend brief periods of time in deeper levels of sleep, and you won't actually feel, excuse me, which will result in not feeling refreshed and energized first thing in the morning. So that's something to be aware of. If you do use substances to sleep, please seek some help. Please go to your healthcare provider to find alternatives to getting sleep, because it is necessary, and we don't want it to become a crutch. Okay, stage 2, or sorry, myth 3. I will just stay in bed till I can get back to sleep. So let's say you're the person who has woken up 2 a.m., you can't go back to sleep, but you're just pleading your body to fall back. You're just ready to fall asleep. You're so tired, you're not ready to get up yet. I'll just stay in there. Please don't do that. You can spend maybe 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes trying to relax your body, relax your mind, fall asleep. If that's not happening, don't worry, try to not be too hard on yourself. It's definitely suggested, though, to exit your bed. Get out of your bed, get out of your bedroom, maybe go to a different space, and try to keep the lights low. You can maybe go to your living room, do a small, quiet activity until you feel drowsy again, and then you can go back into bed. That helps sometimes. And I know that can be very frustrating. It's not ideal. However, it's the reason why people suggest that you exit your bed is that you don't want to associate being frustrated and not being able to sleep with your bed. You want to remove as much stress as possible from your room. Okay. So I'm getting a few messages in the chat. I do apologize. And I just didn't look at it. So it says, is it possible to have a combination of onset and maintenance insomnia? Yeah, it definitely is. There are sleep doctors in Ottawa that I highly suggest looking up when you have the chance. And there's actually free workshops that you can do through your doctors. It's a recommended program, and they will they'll obviously do an intake of you. They can they'll get more information about your experiences, and they'll be able to help you with the different types of insomnia. Oh, yes. And I'll also say there's another person, Clara. Thank you so much for your comment. I didn't say before I got into insomnia that onset and maintenance insomnia are not the only forms of sleep disorders. There's plenty of sleep disorders. It's simply that I don't have time to go through all of them. So I just chose the two most common. And that's why I only talked about those today. But thank you so much for sharing. This is very detailed. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Okay, so the one thing that is recommended for anyone who wants to work on their sleep is to check in on their sleep hygiene. So what does that mean? So sleep hygiene is the definition is indicated in bold here. So it's the development of behaviors and environment that promotes consistent, and 2, uninterrupted sleep. So that is different for everyone, okay? But sleep hygiene, your level of sleep is different for everyone, right? Maybe it's 6 hours of sleep, that's good for you. But as long as you're getting a consistent 6 hours of sleep, that's fantastic. I do want to say here, since we're talking about the minimum number of sleep is that anything under 5 hours is not considered enough sleep to be good enough for daily activity. So if you're someone who's maybe on the verge of that, again, maybe book an appointment to see your doctor or your healthcare provider. If you already have an appointment with them, maybe this is something to bring up during your appointment. Okay, but sleep hygiene is something that you can use to improve your environment and your mindset, essentially, in order to ensure that you're getting enough sleep. But there's several parts to this. And there's some people who focus on one thing and that's it. But there's so many different parts of sleep hygiene. The first is your sleep schedule. And this is actually something that we'll go through today. The second is a sleep routine. So a sleep routine could be taking a shower 30 minutes before bed and then making a cup of tea. So I have my tea here. Maybe it's your tea. Maybe it's playing with your cat for a little bit and then writing in your journal. And once you go through all of those steps, you know that you're ready for sleep. You're just about to close your eyes and you can go into bed, right? And the next is daytime habits. So this is the third part of sleep hygiene. It's important to be aware of the amount of caffeine that you're drinking. It's not suggested to drink caffeine or to consume caffeine of any kind 10 hours before bed. It takes quite a while for it to move through your system, and it can impact your sleep. Okay, and that's a generalization. There's some people who metabolize caffeine differently, and so it doesn't have as much of an impact on them. But in general, we suggest no caffeine 10 hours at least before bed. And it also naps. Naps is another thing that is really difficult to generalize about because it's different for everyone. But if you're someone who requires a nap midday, it's typically around this time or a little bit before, maybe around 1 or 2 is when most people have the afternoon slump. It's suggested that you don't nap at least 7 hours before bed. Okay, and the length of your naps can obviously vary, but nothing more than 45 minutes is suggested. Okay, and if you do happen to sleep more than that, you want to finish your sleep cycle. And remember that a sleep cycle is about an hour and a half. So just push your sleep to an hour and a half, and then you can wake up then, and you'll be able to feel refreshed. Oftentimes, if you sleep between 45 minutes and 50 minutes to an hour, you're getting into phase 3 sleep or REM sleep, but just the beginning of it. And it can be really difficult to wake up out of. So you'll feel groggy and uncomfortable, maybe grumpy, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. So those are some things to keep in mind. The next is to have, I call it a sleepy room, but a room that is just made for sleep. So you take out all the clutter if you can. I know that as a student, it can be very difficult to have a space that's specifically for sleep. It's also your study room. It's where you work. Maybe it's where you hang out and you can Zoom call your friends. But what I would suggest is just remove anything that doesn't need to be in there. And if it is also your study space, maybe it's as simple as clearing off your desk and putting away your school stuff at the end of the day. It's just a way to move, to separate stress or lots of activity from sleep, which should be calm and relaxed. Also, temperature is another thing. So it's actually recommended that your bedroom be between 15 and 20 degrees Celsius. And I know for some that's frigid. They'd be shivering in their boots if they had to sleep at that temperature. But lower temperatures are related to better sleep quality. And keep in mind that your body temperature already decreases when you're going to sleep. Remember, in stage 2 and stage 3 sleep, your body temperature decreases. So we want to help that take place. And doing that, you can do that, pardon me, by reducing the temperature in your room. Okay. Oh, and lights, of course, is necessary, making sure that you reduce as much light as possible. You make it as dark as possible as you can. Maybe it's as simple as putting a piece of tape over the clock that might have a light on it. and reducing sound. So using an eye mask if you need to, putting in earbuds or there's another word that I'm missing, earplugs, to help you create a space that's best for sleeping. And last is your mentality. Try not to be too hard on yourself. Especially if you're someone who's suffering from a sleep disorder or insomnia, other issues, it's really, really difficult to sleep when you're stressed. Okay, so do an activity that calms you down, gets you ready for sleep, and try to think positively about sleep. And that might help you achieve your goals, your sleep goals. All right, so I've done a lot of talking. Now is our chance to go through our sleep schedule. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment here, and I will place in the chat our sleep schedule that we will work through today. Please let me know if you got the file in the chat. And if you didn't, feel free to message me directly. Can I see a few hands here and there? If you got this, okay, I do. Great, 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 great. So you can go ahead and open the file. It's a spreadsheet. So this is our chance to go through a sleep log. So like I mentioned before, we're going to tackle the sleep schedule. Now, a sleep schedule just simply indicates I didn't receive it. So I'll place there you go, and there again. So it's in the general chat. Let me try this one more time. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and open it up, and then I'll share my screen with you. Oh boy. Sorry, everyone. Just give me one moment as I share my screen. Okay, there we go. Can everyone see the screen? Can I see a few hands? Maybe in the chat? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so this is a typical sleep schedule that you could enter daily if you'd like. I highly suggest, if you're someone who's trying to work on their sleep, doing this daily, okay? So of course you'd enter your name. My name is Caprice. Oh boy, sometimes this doesn't work. There we go. Okay, so my name is Caprice. The starting date is January 10th, 2022. And you'll notice that there are equations in this spreadsheet, so things will auto-populate. So you only need to enter your current date, and then you can, and then the end date will automatically pop up. So let's say that my lights out time, the time I want to go to bed and close my eyes, get myself ready to sleep. Let's say that's 10:30, okay? And my out of bed time, let's say it's 7 a.m. Oopsie, put in the wrong one. Okay, so you'll notice that it's starting on today's date, but this is the night between Monday and Tuesday. So always keep that in mind. If you see that there's a shift somewhere on your schedule, just take another look at the equations, and maybe there's trouble. But something to keep in mind when you're doing this spreadsheet, always try to keep a log or piece of paper beside your bed so that you can write down the times before you fall asleep and when you wake up in the morning. And just having that paper available beside your bed helps you remember to do your sleep log, but also makes it easier and make sure that your data that you're entering is most accurate, okay? So let's say the time I got into bed was 10 o'clock. I know that my bedtime is 10:30, but I wanted to go in a little bit early. Let's say I was really tired. What time did I close my eyes? Okay, well, I read my book for half an hour, and then I closed my eyes at the indicated time. It was 10:30. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is that this is actually military time. So it's going to be the 24-hour clock that you're following. So I'm going to follow that. And the examples are here. Sometimes I forget about my own examples. It's funny. There you go. What time did I get out of bed? Okay, well, my alarm went off, and then I was really tired, stayed in bed until 7:15, okay? So it will show you the allotted time that you are sleeping, completely asleep, okay? And then how long did it take for you to fall asleep? Okay, well, I was pretty tired. My sleep pressure was really high. It didn't take me long to fall asleep, and it wants it to the closest 0.25 hours, which is 15 minutes. So the closest 15 minutes, let's say I fell asleep within 5 minutes. So I'm actually going to keep this at 0.00, okay? If I awoke throughout the night, well, actually, I'm not suffering from insomnia right now, but I did have to wake up and I had to go to the washroom. And so let's say that was 15 minutes, okay? So I'd say 15. Okay, time spent awake in bed before I got up to start my day. Well, I did say that I slept in a little bit. I hit the snooze button once, let's say. So I'm going to put 0.25. Okay, so you'll get the rest of the rows here will auto-populate. So please be sure to not change any of these. If you'd like to learn more about these equations, the acronyms are here on the left-hand side. So feel free to Google them, learn about them. You can also take a peek at the equations to see how it comes out, how your sleep efficiency is calculated. But just remember, you only need to enter information in the yellow columns, okay? And something that I didn't mention earlier is that you can also change these Y columns at the top. This is just an example of what a Monday would look like, but oftentimes when you get to the end of the week, Saturday and Sunday, your sleep schedule might change. So if you slept in until, I don't know, 12 p.m., that actually might not be reflective of what your typical lights out and out of bedtime is. So you can go ahead and click the down, click the down arrow, and you can just click no. Okay, it's not going to be included in my daily average. So it will be an accurate representation of what your sleep efficiency is. So this is just an example of how you can fill in your sleep schedule to keep track of how you're doing. Okay, and sorry, I didn't actually say that this is your sleep efficiency here at the bottom right. So right now it's 94, and you'll notice that your sleep efficiency will increase when you spend the most amount of time in bed sleeping. The more time that you're in bed, but you are not sleeping, is when your sleep efficiency will decrease, okay? So let's say that I got out of bed at 7, exactly when I said I was supposed to. And that means I'm also going to change the time that I spent awake in bed. Okay, so now it's only the 0.25 time that I woke up in the night to go to the washroom. And look, you can see that the sleep efficiency has increased by 3 points. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're trying to work on your sleep and your behavior overall, okay? And if you want to radically change your sleep schedule, let's say you're someone who's currently going to bed at midnight, but you really should be going to bed at 9 p.m., please adjust your schedule by 30-minute increments. I wouldn't suggest going right down to your goal time of 9 p.m. when you're going to bed. You can start with 11:30, and you can wake up by a certain amount of time. So another thing to be aware of is if you require at least 6 hours of sleep per night, make sure that when you're making the adjustments, you're always adding the minimum amount of time that you need to actually be asleep, okay? So does anyone have any questions before I move on? I'm not seeing any hands up. Nothing in the chat. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So feel free to download this, keep this available. If you have someone in mind who you think that this would be helpful to share it for, then that'd be great. Oh, Haley, you're saying, can I get the link directly? Unfortunately, I don't have a link for this spreadsheet. It's only a document like this. I can take note of your email and I might be able to email you after the workshop, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and I'll go back to our presentation here. Okay. So we've gone through the sleep schedule. We don't have a plenty of time today. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email me after this session and I would be able to offer a bit more detail. Okay, so what are some ways to practice some better sleep hygiene today? What are some changes that I can make now? Well, first is to learn more about how much sleep that you need, okay? That's really the key. The one thing that you can try to be more aware of now. What is your daily minimum, okay? And from there, you can try to adjust your sleep schedule. The next is has to do with your daytime activities. How much sun you're getting throughout the day is super, super important. So I highly suggest first thing in the morning, if you can, to go outside. And if it's a little bit sunny, trying to get some sun. I know right now we're in the middle of winter, it's Canada, you're not going to get sun until maybe 10 in the morning. So maybe it's in the afternoon around this time or lunchtime when you go outside and you get some sun. That's definitely going to help actually maintain your circadian rhythm, which is also great for when you need to go to sleep. The next is to get familiar for when you're tired and move slowly through your sleep routine. So this just requires a bit of reflection, being more aware of your behaviors and how you feel in the evening time is a great way to know when you're actually ready to go to sleep, when you need to implement your sleep routine and then get yourself into bed. The third is to shut down, have a shutdown time. So this is the time when you put all your electronics away. Maybe it's putting your phone on silent, removing all of your study materials from your desk, and then you're really getting ready for bed. Okay, and of course we're all aware of blue light. A lot of people try to remove blue light from their sleep area, and of course they don't want to look at blue light, so maybe it's removing your computer or phone in order to make sure that your sleep pressure remains high. Okay, so you can go to bed. And the next is to remove excess from your bedroom. Like I mentioned earlier, removing any clutter, any stress from your bedroom, the place where you're sleeping, so that you can actually sleep well. Okay, and those were just ideas. And the last thing I want to say is develop a unique sleep routine. So there's lots of things that people do. This is a person who's using their skin regimen as their sleep schedule or sleep routine, something that they do before bed. But it doesn't have to be that. Maybe it's just reading a book for you. Maybe it's as simple as just taking a shower and then going into bed. But try different activities if this is new to you and figure out what works best for you. Okay. Now I'm just going to talk about a few resources that are available for you. How are we doing for time? All right, so I will be able to go through some of the Q&A questions, but in the meantime, I'm just going to go through the resources really quickly. So the first is a book that I highly suggest everyone read. It's a fantastic book by Dr. Matthew Walker, and it's Why We Sleep. So I've learned a lot from this, and there's also lots of useful tips that you can easily integrate in your daily life. So highly recommend it. And then next are a few apps. So I used to talk about Calm all the time, but it's now completely paid application. And as students, I know that your budget will only get you so far. So I now recommend an app called Balance. And it's an app, both Balance and Headspace are apps that's related to meditation. So if that's not for you, I completely understand. But meditation is a great way to calm your body and your mind and get yourself ready for sleep. Not only for sleep, but just reduce stress overall. So those two I highly, highly recommend. If you need something to listen to something to calm you down, maybe to listen to when you're implementing your sleep routine, I recommend Relax Melodies. It's really nice. I know it sounds strange, but it's a series of sounds that you can play and you can tailor it to your tastes. So you can create your own playlist. And I find it really helpful. The last is specific to individuals who require intensive support for insomnia. So it's called Cbti. Cbt is Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, Insomnia. So it's a fantastic resource and goes through several steps to try and get you going and improve your sleep. Okay, and of course there's health services where I am. You can always make an appointment with us. We do most of our appointments virtually. However, if you need to see a doctor or a nurse in person, that is an opportunity, okay? That is available for you. So feel free to take note of our location and our phone number. And if you want to learn more, just visit our website, Algonquin College/health services. And finally, we have counseling services. Counseling is one of the best resources at student support services. If you definitely just need to talk to someone, it could be as simple as, I'm really struggling with school right now and I don't have someone to talk to. Counseling services is there. And of course, today we're talking about sleep. So if you realize that sleep is a really big issue and it's negatively impacting your ability to move throughout your day, then counseling services is there to support you. Okay, so we've come to the end. Thank you very, very much. And of course, take a screenshot of my email if you'd like, and you can email me, especially for those who haven't been able to get that sleep schedule, and I will send it to you through there. So we have a bit of time to go through the Q&A, so I will just pop that up now. So our first question here is, do you sleep talk in stage 3 of sleep or stage 4? So that typically happens during stage 4 sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep. And something I didn't mention earlier is the other stages of sleep, stage 1 through to 3, stage 1 to 3, that's non-rapid eye movement sleep. Okay, so sleep talking typically happens in stage 4, which is REM, and that's when you're dreaming. So sometimes your mouth, the muscles in your mouth are not paralyzed, so you might talk at that time. And curiously, some of the things that we say in our sleep are not related to your dream at all. Some things just get mangled, I suppose, between your mind and your body when you're sleeping. Okay. Greetings, Bam. Some of us don't have an organized sleep schedule. So like I mentioned earlier, feel free to email me, or I'll take note of your name and I will try to send the sleep schedule through email if it didn't work for you. Now, the sleep schedule that I sent, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and that might not be conducive to how you work. It might not be nice to have a sleep schedule that you have to access on your computer. Maybe you're someone who likes to write it down, and you can certainly do that. It's the same process. I would actually recommend going through the acronyms that I shared, and it will help you understand how to calculate your sleep efficiency if you really do want that number. Otherwise, you can simply take note of the time that you begin to feel sleepy. Okay, this is just before you would implement your sleep routine. The time that you actually want to go to bed. Okay, the time that you do go to bed and you fall asleep, and then the time that you wake up. Okay, the time of the week the time that you wake up and the time that you actually get out of bed. Sometimes it's the same for some people. I remember when I was young and gung-ho, I would just jump out of bed. So the time between waking up and getting up were basically the same. Okay, but that might be different for you. So once you have all that information down and you maintain a daily schedule or daily regime of keeping track of that information, just be aware of the amount of hours that you're actually spending in your bed and in your bed sleeping. Okay, as long as most of the time that you're spent in bed is actually sleeping, you're doing good. Okay, if you're waking up throughout the night and you cannot get back to sleep, that's where you might have some trouble, and that might be maintenance insomnia. If you're having trouble actually like falling to sleep, getting to bed, then that might be onset insomnia. And I'm not trying to diagnose anyone here. If you have trouble with any kind of sleep disorder and you require more support, I highly suggest seeking a healthcare professional. And they can better help you and support you in whatever needs that you have. This was simply an overview of sleep overall, okay? Does anyone else have any questions that they'd like to ask in the chat maybe? I don't see any more questions here. So I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you so much to everyone coming in today. If you have any other questions, like I said, feel free to email me. And there's plenty of other activities that are happening this week. I believe it's Let's Get Social this week. So take a look at the orientation page and all the other events pages, and you can book other webinars and see what else is out there. So again, thank you so much for participating and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.